Hello and welcome. This is Sophia, and I'm here with James. We're so glad you joined us today. We're going to talk about something really important and useful: money. Everyone deals with money in some way, right, James?
Absolutely, Sophia. Money is something we use all the time, whether we're buying food, paying for a service, or even saving up for something special. And there are so many words and phrases related to money. Knowing these can be super helpful for everyday conversations.
Yes, and we're here to help you learn these words in a simple way. Today, we'll start with some of the basics about money, like spending, saving, earning, and borrowing. Let's get into it.
All right, let's start with spending. To spend money means to use your money to buy something. When you buy groceries, you're spending money. When you pay for a bus ticket, you're spending money too. Spending is something we all do, and sometimes we don't even think about it.
That's true. And on the other side, there's saving. When you save money, you keep it aside and don't use it right away. People usually save for future needs or big purchases, like buying a car or going on a holiday. Saving is important because it helps you be prepared for emergencies.
Exactly, Sophia. And another word related to this is earning. To earn money means to make money, usually from working. If you have a job, you earn money for the work you do. And that money is usually what people use for their spending and saving.
Yes, and one more word we should mention here is borrowing. When you borrow money, you take money from someone, like a friend or a bank, with the promise to pay it back later. So you might say, I borrowed $20 from my friend, and I'll pay it back next week. But remember, borrowing often comes with interest if it's from a bank. Interest is extra money you pay for borrowing.
Great explanation, Sophia. So those are some key words: spend, save, earn, and borrow. Now, let's bring these words into a short conversation to show how they're used.
Hey, I got my paycheck today. I'm trying to decide what to do with it.
That's great! Are you going to spend some of it or save it all?
I think I'll spend a bit on something fun, like dinner with friends. But I want to save most of it. I'm trying to build up my savings for a trip.
That's smart. It's good to save up for something special. I spent most of my paycheck last time, so I have to be careful now.
I know what you mean. I sometimes feel like spending it all, but saving gives me peace of mind. It's also why I try to avoid borrowing money unless I really need to.
True! Borrowing can be tricky, especially if there's interest. It's better to save if you can.
Did you notice the words they used? We heard spend, save, earn, and borrow in action. Conversations like this are common, and knowing these words can help you talk more easily about money in English.
Exactly. And the key is to keep practicing these words in real conversations. Just remember that spending is for what you use now, saving is for the future, earning is how you make your money, and borrowing is taking money from someone with a plan to give it back.
Perfect, James. I hope these words and that example conversation help make these ideas a little clearer. There's a lot more to explore with money vocabulary, so stay with us as we dive deeper into this topic.
We covered some basic but essential words: spending, saving, earning, and borrowing. These are words you can use in so many situations, from buying groceries to talking about your job. Now, we're going to go deeper and talk about different types of money and some phrases we use when discussing prices, costs, and budgets. Money is a big topic, right, Sophia?
It sure is, James. Money is such a big part of daily life that it has a lot of terms around it. Let's start with something you mentioned: prices and costs. These are words you see or hear almost every day. When you talk about the price of something, you're talking about the amount of money you need to pay for it. For example, the price of a sandwich, the price of a train ticket, or even the price of a house.
Exactly. And cost is similar but a little different. When we say something costs a certain amount, we're talking about how much money we need to spend to buy it. It's almost like saying, what does it take? For example, you could ask, how much does this shirt cost? And someone could answer, it costs $20, but be careful cost can also mean the effort or sacrifice involved. Sometimes people say, what's the cost of doing that? And they're not only talking about money.
Good point, James. And when we talk about prices and costs, we often talk about whether something is cheap or expensive. Cheap means it costs very little money, while expensive means it costs a lot. You might hear people say, wow, that's expensive, or hey, that's pretty cheap. Sometimes cheap has a negative meaning if it's low in quality, but it depends on the context.
Yes, and I think people can be careful with that word cheap for sure. Now, something related that I want to bring up is budgeting. When you make a budget, you plan how much money you'll spend in a specific period, like a week or a month. A budget is important because it helps you see where your money is going and make sure you have enough for what you need.
And speaking of budgets, there's also a helpful phrase, to stick to a budget. When you stick to your budget, you make sure you don't spend more than you planned. Sometimes people say things like, I'm on a budget to mean they're trying to control their spending and avoid buying things they don't really need.
Exactly, and sticking to a budget isn't always easy, especially when unexpected expenses come up. An expense is something you have to pay for, like a bill. And there are different types of expenses. Some are essential expenses, like rent, food, or transportation. These are things you must pay for, no matter what. Other expenses are non-essential, meaning they're more for fun or comfort, like going out to eat or buying new clothes.
That's true, and managing these expenses is a big part of budgeting. Now, sometimes we have to cut back on expenses, which means spending less. You might hear someone say, I need to cut back on my expenses this month. It could be because they're saving up or because they had an unexpected expense.
Great explanation. Sophia, another phrase people use is to make ends meet. This phrase means to have enough money to cover all of your expenses. If someone says it's hard to make ends meet, they mean they're finding it difficult to pay for everything they need.
Yes, and making ends meet is a common concern for many people. Sometimes, when expenses go up, or if someone loses their job, they might struggle to make ends meet. That's why budgeting and controlling expenses are so important.
And speaking of that, there's another word, debt. Debt is the money you owe to someone else. Maybe you borrowed money to buy a car, or you used a credit card and haven't paid it off yet. This is all debt. And usually, people work to pay off their debts slowly over time because having too much debt can be stressful.
That's so true, James. Paying off debt can take time and discipline, but it's possible. A related term is interest, which is the extra money you pay when you borrow. For example, if you borrow $100 from the bank, you might have to pay back $105 or more. That extra $5 is interest, and it's how banks make money when they lend.
Exactly. And let's talk about income too. Income is the money you earn, usually from a job. It's what people use to pay their expenses, save, or invest. Income can also come from other sources, like rental income if you own property, or interest from savings accounts.
Yes, and income is a huge part of money management. Many people try to increase their income by working extra hours, finding a new job, or even starting a side business. More income often means more options when it comes to spending and saving.
Another interesting phrase we hear is living within your means. This means you don't spend more money than you earn. If you live within your means, you're able to pay your expenses, save a little, and avoid debt. But if you spend more than you earn, it's called living beyond your means, which can lead to debt and financial trouble.
Yes, it's a useful phrase. So, to sum up some of what we've talked about, we've covered prices, costs, budgets, expenses, income, debt, interest, and a few helpful phrases like to stick to a budget, make ends meet, and living within your means. These are words and ideas that are so useful when talking about money.
Right, and understanding these terms can help a lot in managing money more confidently. Money doesn't have to be scary, and talking about it helps make it easier to understand.
Alright, let's continue our journey through the world of money. In the last part, we discussed some important words like prices, costs, budgets, and expenses, as well as useful phrases like to make ends meet and living within your means. Today, let's talk about some common ways people manage their money and discuss some terms that might come up when you're planning for the future. Does that sound good, James?
Absolutely, Sophia. When we think about managing money, a big part of it is saving and investing. We already talked a bit about saving, but let's go deeper. People save money to have it available for specific goals, emergencies, or retirement. But saving isn't the only way people plan for the future, they also invest.
Yes, investing is a way to grow your money over time. When you invest, you put your money into something that you hope will increase in value, like stocks, bonds, or real estate. For example, if you buy a stock, you're buying a small piece of a company. If the company does well, the value of your stock might go up, which means your investment grows.
And the difference between saving and investing is important. Saving is usually safer because you're just putting money aside, like in a savings account. Investing, on the other hand, can give you higher returns, but it comes with more risk. Risk means there's a chance you could lose some or all of your money, especially if the investment doesn't go as planned.
Exactly, James. And understanding risk is essential for anyone who wants to invest. There are different levels of risk with different types of investments. For example, stocks are often considered high risk because their value can change a lot, sometimes very quickly. Bonds, on the other hand, are usually considered lower risk. They're like loans you give to companies or the government, and they pay you back with interest over time.
That's right. And then there's real estate, which means buying property like houses or apartments. Real estate can be a good investment because property values tend to go up over time, but it's also risky because prices can fall or it can be hard to sell property quickly if you need the money.
Good point. Another helpful concept to know is diversification. When you diversify, you don't put all your money in one place. For example, instead of investing all your money in one stock, you might put some in stocks, some in bonds, and maybe a little in real estate. This way, if one investment doesn't do well, you won't lose all your money.
Yes, diversification is a way to manage risk. And it's why many people talk about having a balanced portfolio. A portfolio is just a term for all the different investments you own. When people say they want a balanced portfolio, they mean they want a mix of investments to reduce risk and grow their money steadily.
Exactly, and it's also helpful to know about interest rates. We talked about interest earlier, which is extra money you pay when you borrow or get when you save. But interest rates can vary depending on the type of loan or account. For example, a mortgage for buying a house might have a different interest rate than a car loan or a credit card. High-interest loans can be very expensive over time.
Yes, interest rates are important. They affect how much you'll pay if you borrow money and how much you'll earn if you save. Higher interest rates mean more cost for loans, but they're better for savings accounts because you earn more.
And when we talk about interest, there's something called compound interest. This is when you earn interest not just on the money you saved, but also on the interest that money has already earned. It's like a snowball effect. Over time, compound interest can make your savings grow faster.
Compound interest is powerful. That's why people often say, the earlier you start saving, the better. The more time your money has to grow with compound interest, the bigger it can get.
Definitely. And that brings us to something called financial goals. A financial goal is a plan you have for your money. For example, You might have short-term goals like saving for a vacation or buying a new phone. Long-term goals could be things like buying a house or saving for retirement.
Yes, and setting financial goals can help you stay focused and motivated. Many people find it helpful to write down their goals and make a plan for how much to save each month. That way, they can keep track and see their progress over time.
Absolutely. And when people set goals, they often think about needs and wants. Needs are things you must have, like food, shelter, and healthcare. Wants, on the other hand, are things you'd like to have, but they aren't essential. Learning to tell the difference between needs and wants can help you make better financial decisions.
That's a great point, Sophia. Deciding between needs and wants is a big part of budgeting. If you focus on your needs first, you'll have a better idea of how much money you can use for your wants, and it helps you avoid impulse buying.
Yes, impulse buying is when you buy something you didn't plan to buy, often because it looks nice or is on sale. While it's okay sometimes, too much impulse buying can make it hard to stick to a budget.
That's true, Sophia, and sometimes to help with saving and sticking to financial goals, people open different types of accounts. There are checking accounts for everyday spending and savings accounts for saving money. A checking account is good for regular use, like paying bills or buying groceries, while a savings account is better for money you don't need right away.
Exactly, and savings accounts often have a little interest, so your money can grow. Some people even have retirement accounts, which are special accounts where you save money for when you're older. These accounts sometimes have tax benefits, which can help your money grow even more.
Yes, planning for retirement is something a lot of people focus on as they get older. Retirement accounts, like a 401k or an IRA in the US, allow people to put money aside for the future, so they have a source of income when they stop working.
And speaking of planning, financial planning is another key term. Financial planning means creating a long-term strategy for your money. It often includes setting goals, budgeting, saving, and investing. Some people work with financial planners to make a plan that fits their goals.
That's right, and financial planners can help by giving advice on things like managing debt, planning for big purchases, or figuring out the best way to save for a child's education.
So today we've covered quite a few terms: investing, risk, diversification, interest rates, compound interest, financial goals, needs versus wants, impulse buying, types of accounts, and financial planning. Understanding these ideas can help you manage your money better and make smarter choices.
Absolutely, Sophia. Knowing these terms and how they fit into your life is a big step toward financial confidence. It's all about finding a balance that works for you and your goals.
Now, we'll focus on practical money management tips that can really make a difference in everyday life. Ready to jump in, James?
Yes, Sophia, a great place to start is with something called paying yourself first. This means setting aside money for savings before you spend on anything else. Even a small amount can add up over time.
Exactly. It's a simple strategy, but it helps build a habit of saving. Another tip that works well with this is automating your savings. Many banks let you set up automatic transfers from your checking account to your savings account, so you're saving regularly without thinking about it.
That's a smart move, Sophia. Automation takes away the temptation to spend that money instead. And speaking of saving, creating specific savings goals can also make saving easier. It's motivating to know you're saving for something specific like a vacation, a new laptop, or even a down payment for a home.
Absolutely. Setting goals gives you something concrete to work toward. Another tip related to spending is tracking your expenses. If you write down everything you spend or use a budgeting app, it's easier to see where your money is going. This can be eye-opening, especially if you're spending a lot on things you don't really need.
Yes, tracking spending is a powerful habit. Many people find that they're spending more than they thought on things like coffee or eating out. By tracking, you can decide where to cut back. This brings us to a related tip, setting a spending limit. If you know you want to spend less on eating out, for example, you can give yourself a weekly or monthly limit.
Great idea! Setting spending limits helps you stick to your budget and make sure you're spending on things that really matter to you. Another strategy is to use the 50-30-20 rule. This means spending 50% of your income on needs, 30% on wants, and 20% on savings or paying off debt.
That's a solid rule, Sophia. It's a simple way to keep your spending balanced. Another thing people can consider is building an emergency fund. This is money set aside for unexpected expenses, like car repairs or medical bills. Financial experts often recommend having enough to cover 3 to 6 months of living expenses.
Yes, an emergency fund can be a lifesaver. It keeps you from going into debt when something unexpected happens. And on that note, managing debt carefully is important too. Try to pay off high-interest debt, like credit card debt, as quickly as possible. The longer you carry high-interest debt, the more it costs you in interest.
That's right. Paying off debt early saves money in the long run. Another helpful tip is comparison shopping. Whether you're buying groceries or a new phone, comparing prices can help you find the best deals. It's amazing how much you can save by shopping around.
Exactly, and comparison shopping applies to services too, like internet or phone plans. Another tip people find useful is using cash envelopes for different spending categories. For example, if you have $100 a month for entertainment, you keep that money in a separate envelope. When the money's gone, it's gone. It's a way to control spending.
Yes, cash envelopes are a great way to stay disciplined with spending. Another technique is delaying big purchases. If you want something expensive, wait a few days or even a week. Often, you'll find that you don't want it as much after thinking about it.
That's so true. Waiting can really help avoid impulse buys. And if you do decide to buy, it's because you truly want or need it. Also, looking for sales or using coupons can save a lot of money over time. Many people plan their purchases around sales to stretch their budget further.
That's a great tip. Another useful idea is to learn basic cooking. Cooking at home is usually cheaper and healthier than eating out. Even simple meals can save a lot compared to buying ready-made food or going to restaurants.
Yes, and cooking at home is a fun skill to learn. It's a small change that can add up to big savings. Another thing to remember is to review any subscriptions you have. Many people pay for things like streaming services or magazines that they don't actually use. Canceling unused subscriptions can free up extra money each month.
That's a really good one, Sophia. Subscriptions are easy to forget, and they add up. Another tip is to shop secondhand. For items like clothes, furniture, or electronics, buying secondhand can save a lot, and often you find things in excellent condition.
Yes, shopping secondhand is eco-friendly and budget-friendly. And my final tip would be tracking your progress. Every month, take a look at your savings, your debt, and your spending. When you see your progress, it can keep you motivated and help you make adjustments if you need to.
That's an excellent wrap-up tip. Tracking your progress helps you see the results of all your efforts. Financial health takes time, but these small steps can make a big difference.
So today, we covered practical tips for managing money, including paying yourself first, automating savings, setting spending limits, tracking expenses, and even cooking at home to save. We hope these tips make managing your money feel less intimidating and more doable.
Definitely, Sophia. And remember, financial health isn't just about money. It's about peace of mind and feeling secure about the future. So keep practicing these habits, and over time, you'll see the benefits.
Thanks so much for joining us on this podcast series. We hope you learned new words, phrases, and strategies that you can use in your own life. And if you enjoyed this podcast, Please subscribe to our channel and share it with your family and friends.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Take care and best of luck with your financial goals. Goodbye.